Today we're going to discover a very interesting recipe from Italy, and I'm talking about homemade pasta. We're going to try to do it using the least amount of tools possible, just our hands, a few kitchen things, and our passion. And we're going to try to combine our homemade pasta with a very interesting additional sauce that has a very interesting twist as a surprise. Come with me and discover it. For the making of the pasta, only two ingredients are necessary: the eggs and flour. Consider 1 egg per person more or less, and 100 grams of flour per egg. Flour type 00 will be strongly recommended. For 5 people, that will make it for 5 eggs and 500 grams of flour. To begin with, place all the flour in your working table and make sure to create a fountain in the middle so that you can place the eggs one after the other on top of it. Make sure that the eggs do not fall apart, and if that happens, just make sure that you can place them back again with a little fork or with your own hands. When working the dough, make sure that you're mixing the eggs and the flour correctly so that your actual final result is a good mixture of the two main ingredients. While working the dough, consider to add some flour from time to time. This will make the working so much easier, and you will make sure that the dough is not going to stick on your working surface. At this point, just continue working the dough as much as possible and be very strong with your hands. The process should take more or less 10 minutes. Now that you've worked the dough for 10 minutes, just make sure to cover it and place it in a controlled environment for more or less half an hour. That's going to give time for the dough to rest and to be ready to be worked later on. After approximately half an hour of rest, your dough is ready. So you can take it back and place it on your working surface. Just make sure to put some flour on the surface so that dough will never stick on it and make the process much more complicated. Now it's time to use the rolling pin. Remember to also cover it with some flours. That would also help with the non-sticking of the dough. Before using it, remember to create a disc shape out of your dough. For that, just simply use your hands and try to make sure that the dough is reaching a good shape before you work it with a rolling pin. That shouldn't take that much time. At that point, take your rolling pin and start rolling the dough as much as possible to make it flat and of a rectangular shape. Continue this process as much as possible, and remember to be strong with your hands so that the dough will be thinner and thinner as the time goes by. While reducing the thickness of your dough, I recommend you to use the rolling pin and to wrap the dough around that pin. In that way, not only the process will be faster, but also it will give your dough a much more well-defined rectangular shape. And this will be quite important for the final making of our tagliatelle. Remember to also flip the dough from time to time. Not only this will make it thinner, but it will also make it sure that it's not going to stick on the table. Once your dough is thin enough, and it also has more or less a rectangular shape, you can start cutting all the tagliatelle layers. Remember that at this point, it doesn't matter how many layers you cut, as long as you more or less keep the consistency of their size. In case you encounter some problems in the making of the dough, remember that you can always move the parts that have holes or that are imperfect. Just remember that you can reuse those layers without throwing them away. You can always make a new pasta with different shapes. And now you're ready to create the typical shape of the tagliatelle. For each rectangle, try to fold it from one side to the other, making sure that during the folding, the same dimension more or less is kept. Remember that will have a huge impact on the shape of the tagliatelle, so the better you do it, the better the result will be. Once the folding is complete, you can now start cutting each tagliatelle. Remember also here to keep the same size and make sure that you're cutting it properly. For each batch of tagliatelle, just make sure that they unfold properly. It might happen that for some of them you're going to have to do it individually so that they don't stick to each other. batches are ready, collect them together and make sure with some flour in your hands that the tagliatelle are actually non-sticking to each other. Your tagliatelle are now ready. The ingredients for the preparation are tomato, chive, salmon, cream, vodka, plus an onion. Once all your ingredients are cut and ready, just put them close to your frying pan. Put some oil. Then add the onions. Keep stirring. And then at that point, put the salmon together with them. At this stage, you can consider to cook the salmon for approximately a couple of minutes. You just need to make sure that it cooks a little bit. Then you can start with the vodka. Just put a random amount of it so that it covers the salmon. And then at that point, you can have your flambe. Remember, the flambe flame shouldn't be too high, but at the same time, it should be good enough to properly burn the salmon layer. At this stage, you can then move to the cream. Remember to add the cream evenly on the salmon and to keep stirring to make sure that it gets homogeneous with the rest of the ingredients. At this point, you can add the tomatoes. Then, after mixing them, you can add some salt. Remember to taste it before to make sure that it's what you want. Finally, you can add the chive. And this is going to be the last ingredient of your preparation. At this point, you're ready to put the tagliatelle in boiling water. Cook the tagliatelle for approximately 3 to 4 minutes and make sure that they are still al dente before you place them together with the sauce. In this way, you're going to have the last minute of the cooking of the tagliatelle together with the sauce, with the pan on the fire. Keep stirring, and then here you are, your tagliatelle are ready.